This call is now being recorded.
What's up, everybody? It's Jacob. I am here with Bill Pritchard, who plays bass, and he's amazing. And I can't wait to share, or I can't wait to hear what he has to say about himself and all the questions that I have. Bill, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good.
Good, good. Man, I figure the best way to do this is to start from the beginning. Let's start from the top, as they say in show business. Um, Tell me a little bit about how in the world you ended up in a career of music, and maybe some of your earliest influences, and and stuff like that.
Sure. So, I always sang songs at night with my mom. I really loved that. We'd sing like little folk tunes or the whole book of them. Um,
Oh, cool.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then I remember loving elementary music. And it's funny, I just today remembered my elementary music teacher. It's like, shout out to Mrs. Dubois, wherever she may be. and and then I remember, joining high school, joining the band in fourth grade, originally as a saxophone player, which was a unmitigated disaster. Um,
I had the same experience. I started on the saxophone, and it was also a disaster. But anyway,
well,
continue.
so the problem was like, because, and man, this will age me, but Bruce Springsteen was a big deal, right? And you had
Hmm.
Clarence Clemens, who played tenor and played low a lot, So in my ear, that's what I heard. I heard that, or I heard Barry. So then they hand me an alto, and the only way I could get a sound that even remotely mimicked that was by overblowing it and getting that. And I thought that was the greatest sound, much to the chagrin of everyone around me, including my band teacher. So yeah, then a year after I went to percussion, and I actually did pretty well in percussion. I did that until high school. Freshman year of high school, I started playing tuba and bass. And around high school too was when my dad worked in corporate America. I worked for Panasonic, and we were on one of these like company trips where we were on a ferry going around the Statue of Liberty, and this drunk executive from Japan came up and was, "Hey, babe," and
Daddy,
yes,
ignorance.
Say hi.
say hi, babe. You want to say hi?
Hi.
Hi.
So we were on this this ferry going around the Statue of Liberty, and this drunk Japanese executive was like, "Hey," well, he said in Japanese, and his translator was like, "Hey, he wants all the employees to come down and sing 'Hey Jude' with him, even though there was no karaoke. It was just going to be a cappella."
Oh,
And
weird.
yeah, 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 yeah. And then everybody sort of giggled, and then he kind of gets real gruff on the microphone, and then the translator goes, "If you would like to keep your job, please report to the dance floor right now." And I just saw like all of these dudes just like slump over and just sort of drag themselves to the dance floor, and I was like, "That's a no. I'm not going to be doing that."
Oh my
I
gosh.
I think I want to do music. I want to do,
Yeah.
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 So that was kind of a big defining moment in my life. And then from there I went into college and did a bunch of degrees and blah blah blah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So wait a minute. So when you went to college, your
Hmm.
focus, I only know this because I know you, but your focus tuba specifically? I think,
Yeah,
right? Was that
yeah,
like pretty much what the degree was in college?
yeah. My under
Where did you go to Eastman? Is that right?
I went there for my master's. So
Okay.
for my undergrad, I went to William Patterson, and I got a music management degree, so like a music business degree. And I was just doing tuba. And then when I was there, like I guess like my junior year or so, I did 5 years there. I like
Hmm.
caught fire and was like, "Oh my god, I love 20th century new music," which is like, like atonal weird stuff. And then got obsessed with practicing, and then, like went from being kind of like a pretty tuba player to like a pretty good tuba player. And then, went and did a classical performance degree up at the Eastman School.
Yeah.
And
Right
then
on.
And then from there, like, I got home and then like, I guess it was like, I was taking auditions and then had gotten invited to the field band audition, the Army field band. And I did well, and they're like, "Hey, look, you didn't win today, but would you like a job?" And I was like, maybe." They were like, it would be in Atlanta. And I'm like, Atlanta sounds cool. I don't know about the South because I've only lived in the North and.
So that's how what got you down here was the field band got you down here.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. Continue, please. Keep going.
And so they were like, "We'll pay off $65,000 worth of your student loans and give you a $20,000 signing bonus." And I was like, can I get that? Let me get that piece of paper. So that's what I did.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
dude, that's a blessing. I mean, yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
God. That's like, oh, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah. And
So
actually,
how long were you in for?
4 years,
So you did 4 years.
just
You got
four.
all that. Yeah, yeah. Well, I did 4 years in the military as well, so that's
Yeah. No, I
very
know.
well, very well documented.
Yep.
Different branch.
Yeah.
I was in the chair force, as they say, in the military. But so you do 4 years, you erase that debt,
Yep.
you put some money in your pocket, and then what age are you when you get out? Like 22, 24?
No. So let's see. Because I would have finished grad school. Let's see. Because I would have been like 20. I would have been like 21 or 22 at the end of my undergrad, and then I did.
Oh,
And
right.
then
So you're 26.
yeah, about 26. Because during my
Okay.
master's, and this will be like a what? um, during my first year of master's, at the end of the year, I went and played at a theme park in China.
Well, what?
Yeah. Yeah, it was this place. It was called Grand Link World. It was in Qingdao, like the beer, Qingdao.
Yeah.
And it was pretty wild. They were still building the park when we got there to start rehearsing.
Wow. And so how long were you there doing that?
Till about October, and I think I left in April, so
There's like a
maybe
6 month
around October. Yeah, I think like,
ish.
yeah. So the company that brought us over got us all travel visas. And when the local government, and the company that brought us over is from Singapore.
Okay.
So the local government was kind of like not really feeling the park, in general, because it was expensive. So all this money was coming in and then going straight out to Singapore or going to the US to pay us. So the local government took a look and they were like, "You guys have travel visas." And then they canceled all of our visas and gave us 3 days to leave the country.
Wow. So you went from serving our wonderful country in the field band to immediately going to China and working in
Other
China.
other way. So I was in China and then went to the army.
Oh, and then you went to the army. Okay, I
Yeah,
got it,
yeah,
got it,
yeah,
got it, got it.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh man. Okay, so you're in China, you finish that, you do the military, you get done, you're at 26, you're a fully qualified tuba player.
Yep.
What then? What happens after that?
So then, I doing some freelancing, become a college professor. I'm, still playing bass at like doing some church gigs and stuff. Still playing
Right.
in like the occasional rock band, and then did that for kind of a while, and then I started noticing some weird stuff happening in my embouchure, and
Uh-huh.
I didn't know what it was, and I went out to see some experts, and they were like, "Hey, that is what's called dystonia, which is a neurological condition which affects your motor processes." So, hi Finn.
Hi, Finn. Finn's coming in. I
Yeah,
love
Finn.
it.
um, so yeah, it basically meant like, and I tried a bunch of different rehabs, and it didn't really work, and so
And that affected your ability to stay and play in tune or to recognize, like, was it like the brain to mouth signal situation here? Is that
yeah.
right?
So like in like a true writer's cramp, say you wanted to do this, then your hand would go like this. It would go like the opposite direction of what you wanted it to do. That's kind of what my embouchure would do.
That's insane. After all
Yeah.
those years of training it, it then starts to reverse course.
Yeah. So they basically said it's like two wires neurologically get crossed and then can't get unstuck. So it's almost like on and off kind of
And
stick
this
together.
and this isn't mental. This isn't like you're doing this is just literally physical things happening to your body that will not let you do this.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And the research on it is a little weird, like because there are what are called like specific dystonias, like I had, and then there are general, and specific ones are like if somebody got weird writer's cramp, they figure it out. They do something else. They write with their other hand. For musicians, it's like, well, you can't really play with the other side of your mouth or whatever. Like
Right. What
so.
so what did you how did you feel, how did you find out that this was happening? Like was it just like you were playing, you're like, and like your wife comes in, who's also an awesome trombone player, by
Yeah,
the way,
she's killer.
for the audience. Like,
Yeah.
did she just like walk in one day and is like, what are you doing? Like, or like, or was it, could you hear it? Or like,
I would say at first I felt it, and then I could start to hear it, and then it was be pretty obvious, I think.
right. And I mean, this was just, you were just practicing and this started happening, I guess.
Yeah, or it would happen on gigs, or which that would be the worst thing because you like prep and you do all this practice and you get it down to the point where you're like, man, you could wake me up in the middle of the night and nail this, and then you go and then you can't because your body is fighting against you.
That's crazy.
Well, I guess more specifically, your brain, your basal ganglia is fighting
Right.
against you.
That's just crazy to me. I don't even know how I would feel. Like, I mean, that had to be really hard, dude. You know?
Yeah, I mean, when your email address is tuba dork, when you have a giant tuba tattoo on your arm, like,
That's like
uh,
part of your identity, kind of,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, I've got albums out as amplituba, as like, doing amplified tuba stuff. I played at like regional and international conferences. I mean, I did the thing,
Yeah.
So yeah, it was, to put it lightly, it was crushing.
Yeah.
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 So, but
So what do you, so in this moment, what
well,
what came next, you know?
yeah, it was like, well, sink or swim, dude. Like, do I get a regular job or do I keep doing what I love? And it happened to be like when the symptoms were getting real bad, and I was starting to like not take playing gigs and just do more teaching. Was like like a year or two before the pandemic, and I
Okay.
was I was working at a school where like I had 19 students in 2 days, and maybe two of them would show up each day. So
Mhm.
I could literally just sit there for like 9 hours by myself and look at the wall, or I could do something. So I started bringing my bass and I started playing upright. And a good friend of mine, a local Atlanta guy, Gabe Monticello, started giving me bass lessons, like upright bass lessons. And I started figuring it out. And I was like, let's do this. Let's go get a bass degree. And I thought, well, I feel like I've kind of run down the classical rabbit hole. Let's get a jazz degree because I'd always played like jazz or jazz adjacent things. So
Yeah.
like second line stuff on sousaphone or done like classical improvisatory kind of things, but never like sat down and played like, you know,
Hmm.
capital J jazz if you want to get weird about it, you know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, so I started working, and then of course the pandemic hit, and like no one expected anything from anybody, and I just was like, I'm just gonna keep practicing, you know?
Yeah, right. This is like your opportunity to make up for lost time.
Exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
when else am I going to have the opportunity to like
Yeah.
sit in a house and not have to make excuses like, man, I can't hang out, or I don't know, I don't want to go hear that band, or I don't want to play that gig because nobody's doing nothing. I can just, walk across the hall, close the door and, go nuts.
Right. So, that's a year and a half, 2 years, like of just straight hardcore, practicing. And so when the world opened up, I guess that's when you came out as like the butterfly that you are now, which is
Well,
I'm a bass player.
yeah, and I went back
Ta-da!
to school, so I got a jazz degree. So I got
Yeah.
my third degree burns now, so it's like,
Yeah. So now
yeah.
you're so I guess you just need to change your email to base dork, I guess, right? And
Yeah,
then
I
you're
guess so.
and then you're like good. Man, what I mean, that's just an insane story.
Yeah,
Whenever I think on it, and whenever I tell people like the rough version that I knew, I mean, people are always just like, wait, what?
yeah,
Uh, but I mean, those types of things really tell a man who you are, you know, and like it's like, what am I? What do I have in me to,
yeah,
it's those defining moments that sort of make or break you, in this biz, and not many people have those type of um, polarizing moments in the way that you've had it. I mean, people have hit, crossroads in their life where they're like, am I going to do this or am I not going to do it? But it's a
sure.
whole lot different when your body's like, you can't do this. And if you want to do this, you have to completely relearn. It's kind of, even though you had like a head start, I mean, you weren't like, and you were working, as a basis, it wasn't like your primary focus and your primary, like whatever. It was just like another way of like getting some, probably scratching the itch and making
Yeah,
some money on a Sunday.
yep.
But like to become the focus, that's a whole other thing,
Yeah.
and I just, you know, I think of Pat Martino, like the jazz guitar player who like had, the amnesia event that he had and like completely forgot how to play guitar and had to reteach himself how to play guitar based on his own recordings, you know? Like and I don't remember what exactly caused that. I don't know if it was a medical thing or like he had a major blunt trauma thing. I don't remember what that was, but I just know that he lost completely like all recollection of him, what he sounded like, how to play the guitar or whatever. And so the stuff that you see in the older days of him is him after how he's had to relearn how to play him guitar and had to hear himself on a recording to say that was me once upon a time. Let me
Right.
try and figure this out. Isn't that crazy? That's
That's
like
wild.
that's just so wild. So well man, like in this whole process, like obviously, I mean, because you started with the classical stuff and you went through now and you're doing all this jazz stuff, I mean, you must have like a line or a crazy amount of wild influences that sort of like make you who you are. Like, what are those influences? You know what I mean? Like, you
Oh
know,
man. Uh I mean, like some of the modern ones, of course, are like people like Thundercat. I've always been a huge Frank Zappa fan.
yeah,
Um, I mean, John Coltrane is like, I recorded a song with this hang drummer. It was like hang and electric tuba. It's called John Coltrane's My Spirit Animal. I think
yeah,
about that.
right,
Um, but then you know, I, I like hearing people like Anton Webern, or even Alban Berg. I know they're both from the second. Well, stop. I was like, they're both from the second Viennese school because
right.
everybody's like, oh yeah, second Viennese school. But
Yeah,
like,
everyone listening to this will know exactly what that is, and by that I mean no one will.
but one wrote very like clinical, very like difficult music, and then one who was taught by the same teacher wrote very romantic, beautiful music that also happened to be atonal,
Yeah.
is like, whoa, like, so like, yeah, those things are amazing. And then like, yeah, I mean, I
Yeah,
could
you
probably
could
go
go
on for a
on and on and
while,
on. But
you know.
I would imagine that the discipline that is instilled in learning classical rep, uh, like that mentality of like musicianship and perfection, really, if I could just say it, like probably really helped you move fast through the transition because you knew what was required, and you also knew like the work ethic. That's one thing that I find whenever I've talked to you or like Travis Cottle, other people involved in our organization that like has done classical music first and then transition to like popular music or jazz or anything related to the one thing that I've noticed is like the ability to like lock in, and like focus
Mhm.
on the task at hand and to not stop until it's like perfect, which
Yeah.
again, I mean, I understand it has its flaws and stuff like that. And,
Mhm.
and like the idiosyncrasy sometimes is where the joy of, music is. But let's be real, like level of discipline is what's required to make massive moves when you're transitioning genres like that. And also, it's really what is required to make up ground when you're already of a certain age and you didn't have your entire childhood learning all of this stuff, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, you would obviously, would you say that like that was a big lever that you probably pulled to like get you to where you are now, right?
Yeah. And also, um and I really kind of picked this up from my teacher in grad school is like, how do you be the most efficient in the practice room? Like, how do you
Mm,
get in and get out in X amount of time? Because the other thing that happened during my degree at KSU was I had my daughter, so like I had just finished my, second year, sophomore year back, I still had 2 more years to go, and now I have a newborn, and it's like, oh, oh, good God, now what are we going to do? So it's like, I knew I would only have X amount of time that I could devote to practicing before that day is over and I got to move on.
yeah.
Um, but also like to your point about like having that technical ability and being able to move, if you take the like 3 of those first examples, but like Thundercat, Frank Zappa, and John Coltrane, all 3 of those guys like were and or are, technical monsters, and can do something spontaneous or could do something spontaneous on the fly, but had mastered their craft so well that that's why they could do it. It wasn't like oh, let me try this and see if it works. It's like,
Right.
this is going to work because I know it will.
Yeah, they were technicians first that like learned the physicality of like what the instrument required, got those things underneath their hands, which then allowed them to be as expressive or the musicians that we all know that they are now.
Right.
They were obsessed with, the
Yeah.
the technical craft of learning, the instrument,
Yeah.
which I admittedly have never been. Like I'm here to tell you, like, um, I have a lot of discipline in a lot of ways, but one of those is not sitting down and practicing do 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 do. I am not that guy. But the people that are, God, they can do anything they want to on the instrument. You know what I mean? If they can break out of that and like access the other side of their brain,
Yeah.
because that's like, that's the other side of the brain where it's creative and it's spontaneous and it's beautiful. But
Yeah.
the other side is just as valuable, which is like you got to go through the do 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 do, like so.
Although
Um,
what's really weird is that like one of the things that so like, in brass instruments, everybody does long tones, like brrr, to work on your tone, right?
yeah,
One of the things I refused to do when I started playing bass was long tones, because I was like, this has got to be the most inefficient thing on the planet. So for me, do 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 do, like all the like those kind of patterny
yeah,
things, did some of them, but I didn't spend a ton of time doing them because
right.
I found better better ways to spend my time that got me to the end result that I wanted without having to do the stuff that so like I think there's more than one way to the top,
To the mountaintop. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Well, I mean, you find musicians that that are built on feel, and that they're built on like not being technicians, but their sound is so huge, um and their ability to absorb songs and play those songs in a natural, raw way becomes desirable. Um, and then you have the technicians of the world that are very, this,
Yeah.
um, I and somehow they can, if done both done correctly, can intersect,
Yeah.
at some point.
Yeah.
I do find that fascinating.
Yeah.
Because I've never been, nor will I ever be known as like a chops guy. Like I'm not you know, don't ask me to play anything metal related. That doesn't mean I can't play fast. I just don't
Yeah.
have that sound, and I don't have those notes in my hands. That's
Yeah.
just
That
not
vocabulary.
right. I don't
Yeah.
have those. But I know
Sure.
people that do, and they're unbelievable to watch. Whenever I
Yeah.
watch anybody do any sort of like reproduction of like what Eddie Van Halen did, I like my head explodes. I'm just like, I wish I could make the guitar sound like that. But that's the joy of like, I guess the world that I'm like, the world that chose me is not that world.
Right.
So I can appreciate it, but I also understand that the world that I fit in is like, it's cool too. It's just
Yeah.
different. You know,
Hmm.
um, these days I wish I could just forget everything jazz and just only play country music. Like if I could, all that like open guitar string like Telecaster stuff, that like I'd give up everything I know to be able to do all that. Like but that's just the woman in the red dress, so to speak, right? It's the grass that's greener on the other side.
Sure. Sure.
Because I'm sure there's somebody else on the other side. It's like, man, I wish I knew as many, voicings and cluster voicings as you do on the
Right.
guitar, like
Yeah.
which I which literally make me $0 anymore.
Yeah.
Whatever, no big deal.
Jazz is
I
the
did
get rich slow plan, you know?
yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, it's the 40 years at a university plan,
Yeah.
without the salary. I I find these conversations fascinating because what you just said is like so true, that everybody has their own kind of path that they're on. And like, does spirituality or anything like that play a big part in your life in understanding like your road and how you've been able to handle all this? Because I think you're kind of a spiritual guy in some kind of way, right? I mean, like if it's okay to talk about,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm Buddhist. I've been going to a Buddhist center here since like 2002, I think, 2001. So,
right. And what
yeah,
is what is the teachings of Buddhism like? How do they apply to like how your life has like panned out in this kind of way that has
mhm.
brought you the level of like peace that you needed to like to go through this amount of time? I mean, dude, it's just not a common story, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. I mean, like in Buddhism, they talk about acceptance of suffering, that it's like it's part of life, that like that um there's no way to avoid suffering. In the same way that we were both born, we will both die. Sorry.
Right,
So
right,
it's like a natural process, and there will be suffering, like there's no way for it not to be, right?
right, right,
So like there's one of these Buddhist philosophers, this guy named Shantideva, who said that you can either cover the whole ground, the whole of the earth with leather, or you can put a small bit under your feet. So, meaning like you can either try and get the world so the world never hurts you, or you can protect your mind through meditation and better understanding of like what life means and what spirituality means.
right. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And and well said. That's a those are two vastly different philosophies on life.
Yeah.
Uh, well, man, dude, thank you so much for taking like some time to like share a little bit about like what you do and what you like, how you got to this point. Before I let you go, though, I gotta know, like tell me some of the things you like to do for fun that are like totally not musical. Like what are the things that like you really enjoy and that you like obsess about and all this
Are,
kind of stuff?
are you talking about that behind me?
Oh yeah. Tell us about that. Tell us about that.
So I guess about probably about 2006 or so, I gave up caffeine and was because I it like made me like my mouth would get dry, my stomach would turn, my eyes would bulge out. I just couldn't do it. Like, and
Wow.
in the army, I was drinking a pot of coffee a day, because I was like,
Right.
hell yeah,
Right. Right.
you know. And then so I quit, and then I don't know, 2 years ago or so, I was like, like I think, yeah, Holly was out of town. Imogen, my daughter, was outside playing, and I was about to fall on my face. I was so tired, and it was like 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And one of her students had brought her some tea back from England, so I was like, let me try some black tea. So I tried some, and I was like, got a little energy boost, and I'm like, I'm okay. I feel good. I slept that night, and everything was fine. And I was like, I used to love coffee, and I mean, I had my like blade grinder at the time and my French
Oh
press,
yeah.
which
Yeah.
was about as fancy as we got, like
Yep.
around that time.
Right. Right.
Like all this wasn't what I mean. It might have been around, but it wasn't like that prevalent.
Sure.
So I started drinking coffee again, and my wife had a Keurig thing, and I remember drinking it, and I was like, this doesn't taste like I remember. And it
Yeah.
was like Pete's Dark Roast or something. And I was like, hmm. So I asked our, Chad from GPG. I was like, hey,
Shout
hey,
out Chad
man.
Yoakum.
Yeah, I was like, hey, man, what do I need to check out? He was like, I got you. And so then, like now, if you were to go on my phone, like how some dudes worry like about like their wife finding stuff in their phone. I worry that my wife's going to open it and she's going to see like 58 open pages of different coffees, and like and each one I've got it like in my cart just ready to go, you know. So yeah, I started doing like pour overs. I've got like, oh man, a bunch of different pour over things. I've got like a couple different AeroPresses. I've got a travel espresso machine. I've got like a manual lever espresso machine.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a mess, man.
Wow.
I just got a subscription to Say Coffee in Brooklyn, which is a real fancy one.
Okay.
And a buddy of mine has a Tim Wendelbo subscription out of Norway, and he's letting me piggyback because shipping is $44, but a bag is like 16. So he's gonna let me piggyback off him. So yeah, I now have 2 monthly subscriptions to like really fancy coffee.
Yeah. Well, listen, I mean, it's just like anything else. Like if you're a wine connoisseur, if you're a bourbon connoisseur, if you're like some sort of food connoisseur or something like that, when you have a developed palate towards something, it's really hard to go back to anything that was before. My
Yeah.
coffee journey started with an ex-girlfriend that, you know, made me essentially buy a bunch of to me then fancy coffee equipment. It was just a Chemex and a bean grinder and like whatever. It was like
Yeah.
a $250 investment for her to consider, staying at my place. And so
Good on
she
her.
yeah, right. That was the lasting thing out of that speck of a relationship. And so and I still carry that to this day. Like I can't drink the bad coffee, so much bad coffee that exists out in the world. It's like hard for me to like
Yeah.
to stomach it. But like but
Yeah.
again, when you've tasted good things, you don't want to put bad things in your mouth. And it's just like you
Yeah.
just don't want to do it. So, I get it. I get the obsession. I understand
Yeah.
that probably some people that are listening to this are probably like, why would you ever do anything other than Folgers? But that's okay. That's cool. Good for you.
Yeah.
You do that. And I do find it interesting though that like my next door neighbor has a coffee pot from like the 1970s that he still uses. He got it at like a garage sale or something and it still works.
Wow.
And it's some of the best like old school drip coffee that you can get. Like that. I mean, it's actually good out of that machine for some
Interesting.
reason. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like the old school, like, the crate looking, and you put the
Hmm.
coffee in there and you put I it's just something about the way that machine works.
Right.
It does good things with marginal coffee.
Right.
So, you never know. There's a lot of variables in between all this, as we know. The temperature
Sure.
of the water, the grind, the machine that's doing it, the filters you're using, I mean, we could go on and on and
The
on, right? But
water.
the water, how
Oh,
filtered is your water?
I know.
Yeah, yeah. But hey, listen, these are the things that make us happy, right? We only have a little bit of time on this earth, and might as
Yeah.
well find a couple of things to enjoy it. And thankfully, we live in a country that allows us to do that in most ways. Or a
Yep.
society for that matter. But man, love you, brother. Thanks for taking the
Love you too,
time.
man.
I hope
Absolutely.
you, I hope you out there enjoyed listening to Bill's story, and I hope you'll check out more of them. So, um, we will talk soon. And